For weeks, the U.S. Senate has wrestled with immigration reform, and the radio and TV waves have echoed with commentary and commercials, pressing all sides of the issue. Today on Trifecta, we imagine there's nothing to reform. I'm PJTV's Scott Ott, joined now by Stephen Green and Bill Whittle for a little thought experiment. I hope you'll join us in the comments section below. Two other episodes of Trifecta this week will take a look at more practical aspects of how the Republicans should manage the current immigration policy mess in Congress and what the Republican message should be in order to win more immigrant votes in the coming elections. But men, for the next few minutes, let's take a clean sheet of paper and design an immigration policy for a freedom-loving republic of roughly 330 million people with a constitution just like ours. And for the sake of our exercise, let's not worry about political practicality or election-oriented messaging. This is strictly a discussion of sound policy. Now, it would seem that a fresh immigration policy might need to address national security, jobs, taxes, crime, and social services. Now, Stephen Green, how would you rank those in order of importance and why? And did I leave anything out?
Oh boy, what was that? 6 things, 7 things? Okay, I would rank them jobs number 1, followed by jobs, 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 and jobs. If I got the number right. Look, when people are working, that solves so many other problems. It ends the deficit problem. It lowers the crime rate. It presumes a healthy business environment. It presumes that taxes are low and right. And people are working, people are doing things, people are creating, people are coming into this country and they're not stealing jobs because there are plenty of jobs to go around. That's what this thing is all about. That's what it has to be about. Jobs is a sign of political health. It's a sign of cultural health, and it's got to be the priority.
Well, if Stephen is waiting for jobs out of Congress, I think I'll wait for the movie, which I think is coming out any day now. Bill Whittle, is Steve's ranking, putting jobs as the all-being, the master of time, space, and dimension there, is that reasonable, or do you think that there are different priorities, such as national security and social services?
Well, needless to say, Scotty, they're all bound together, and you talked about a blank sheet of paper just starting from scratch. So let's just start with a blank sheet of paper, and let's be fearless about this. We don't have a problem with our border with Canada because Canada works. We have a problem with our border with Mexico because Mexico doesn't work, and everything south of Mexico doesn't work either. And you just have to start by understanding that fundamental fact, and until you understand that fundamental fact, nothing else is going to make any sense at all. No one's talking about building a border wall with Canada because Canada is a functioning Western democracy where people work hard and they're fully employed by and large, and they've got something that actually works. They don't have to come here. They're happy in Canada, unless they're in show business. Now, when you deal with the Mexican border, you have an entirely different issue. The Mexican border is actually the border between functioning Western civilization in the United States and Canada and dysfunctional, corrupt, socialist dictatorships of various kinds that go back since the Western Hemisphere was founded. If you don't understand this fundamental issue, that the border between Northern European Protestant civilization and Southern European Catholic civilization is drawn at the American-Mexico border, if you don't understand that fundamental truth, then anything that follows is going to be just garbage in, garbage out, right? You want to start with a blank sheet of paper, you have to start with the fact that these economies and these societies work and the ones to the south don't, and that's why people will cross that border using any means necessary.
Well, Steve, if you were the immigration czar, and I think there certainly have to be several of those in this administration, and you're tasked with starting a policy framework from scratch, what are your first 2 major strategic immigration initiatives?
I wish I'd thought of this. It's not mine, but I've sure been borrowing it for the last few years, ever since I've heard it. I think you start with a tall wall with a really wide gate. Like, my perfect immigration policy really just consists of 2 things. Sign your name at the door, let us know you're here, And if you can't learn English, if you're too old or if you just don't have the language skills natively, I mean, I'm terrible at second languages, then we're going to make sure that your kids learn English so that they can fully engage in this American dream, which is supposedly why you came here. Look, there is plenty of room for people who want to be Americans. And I'm not talking about people who come here to do cheap labor and send the money back home. I'm talking about people who come here to use our welfare system. I'm talking about people who come here to live the American dream, and we've got room for millions of those folks. Bring them on over.
Well, Bill, I'd like to piggyback on your previous answer, and I know we're just dreaming here, but let's say that we do have this fundamental problem south of the border that we don't have north of the border. What can you do, or, assuming you had the power of Congress or the presidency, what could you craft as an immigration policy that would address that kind of an issue? Isn't that just a fact of life that there's nothing you can do about it?
It is a fact of life that there's nothing that we can do about, but that doesn't mean we have to ignore it. We have to embrace it. When they built the Panama Canal, the French went and tried to build the Panama Canal before the Americans did. And the French policy was to evacuate the water, basically drain the water away. And it rains all the time in Panama. It's doomed. It will never work. The American plan that succeeded following the French plan was to use the rainfall to our advantage and to flood entire areas and use the natural territory and the natural climate to the advantage of what we want to do. The one thing we have to understand about this immigration issue with Mexico is that this is not, strictly speaking, immigration. We get this confused and we talk about immigrants and how we're a nation of immigrants, but the vast majority of the illegal immigration is not immigration in the sense that we've always understood it. These are not people who are giving up their lives at home to come here to start new lives as Americans. These are Mexicans who are looking for work. And if we don't understand that this is not an immigration wave, it's a work wave, it's an economic wave, we're never going to get anywhere. Now, with that said, Scott, that makes for very, very simple solutions. Guest worker programs actually make tremendous amount of sense. There's a guest worker card that I've seen demonstrated that would give the people who come here, it would give them a certain set of benefits, certainly would not allow them to vote. It would allow them to have certain privileges like a driver's license, which would not allow them to vote and influence the country that they are not coming here to be a part of. The details of the guest worker program make more and more sense the more you think about it, and this solves all of our problems. It's so understandable, it's so easy. But you see, the guys who want these people in here to vote are making this an immigration issue. How dare you, who got off the boat on Ellis Island, tell these people that they can't come in? We're not here for the same reason. We're here for completely different reasons. Most of us came here to stay. These people are not here to stay. They're here to work and then they want to go home. And it's an entirely different problem and it has to be solved in an entirely different way.
Well, and that phrase, would not allow them to vote on the Whittle Amendment, just killed it in the U.S. Senate. While it seems like an impractical fantasy to imagine an immigration policy from scratch, the beauty of our constitutional republic is that the framework of government is adaptable. We, the people, retain the right to amend or even abolish any form of government hostile to life, liberty, or the pursuit of happiness. The last constitutional amendment, I believe is number 27, took more than 200 years to pass, but when it finally did, it was because of the actions of a college student from Texas who devoted himself to lobbying the states to ratify it. We, the people, are not helpless. We are sovereign, and it's about time we started dreaming and acting that way. Don't miss the other two segments of this special Trifecta Immigration, the final one for members only. If you're not a member yet, now's a good time to join. For Bill Whittle, Stephen Green, and the entire Trifecta crew at PJTV, I'm Scott Ott.